Everybody, welcome back. It's Business. I hope you enjoyed the first set of Royal Navy battleships that we covered yesterday, or actually, I don't know when this video will come out. So, in the previous video. So, we've got a lot more in-depth work to do with the Tier 789, the King George V, as you see here, the Monarch, and also the Lion. These couldn't be more different in terms of the actual playstyle compared to the ones that came before it. Again, these models are absolutely fantastic. I love the look of the Monarch's turrets, and it's got actually my favorite gun sounds right there. So those are the same as a number of the other like 15-inch guns as well. The German battleships have them from the Gneisenau and Scharnhorst. Actually, even the Koenig has that same sound all the way up through the let's see, the Friedrich I know has that same sound. I don't know if the Kurfürst does. I can't quite remember. I don't think it does actually. But yeah, then looking at the Lion, very good looking model again. This finally gets up over the 15-inch gun range that the British battleships have been stuck at. So you're looking at 406mm and 419mm gun options. So that proves to be pretty interesting, but we'll get to that in a little bit. First things first, the King George V. What can I say about this ship? I don't like it. And oh wow, a Citadel, yay! Trust me, that shit is rare. This particular ship I've played a lot of. I think I've played more of this than any of the other British battleships because I've been so fascinated by the sheer inconsistency of it. To call this ship the struggle bus is putting it lightly. This particular ship, the King George V, is the worst experience I've ever had playing a battleship. And I've played the old Colorado, and this has that has nothing on this ship. It's just wow. The first 7 games, I think I averaged I think it was like 22% accuracy. I took off the accuracy module, and now I'm nearly at 30%. What the hell does that mean? I'm so confused by that. And guess what? The Lion, same problem. The Monarch, I'm still kind of unsure about. I feel like I brawl a lot more with that, so I don't really notice accuracy issues nearly as much with that ship. But anyways, when it comes to the KGV, it has much lower overall AP potential because of the fact that it has 356mm guns, which are the smallest for any battleship, tier 7 and up. And I'm talking tech tree because obviously it's a tech tree ship. So the Scharnhorst has 283mm, so but you know that's premium, so not really including that. It has a faster reload to try to compensate for this, and essentially what this all boils down to is the fact that it's a very heavy cruiser, and it has a very strong emphasis on HE. And until you get close to like an enemy battleship, I do not recommend using AP with this. You can get some good salvos if they're like flat and you're aiming above the like at the belt line, at the where the side meets the deck, like same way that you would shoot against the German battleships to try to maximize damage. But then you fall into the category of unreliable as hell dispersion, and to me that's a very big issue. I do not feel the slightest bit rewarded when I play this ship, and I've played it a fair bit because I've been so fascinated by it, like I said. But you know, the HE damage is pretty solid. It's second best at tier 7 at 6100. It has the highest fire chance by 5% at 41% overall. So with the fact that it's 356mm, you result in an HE shell penetration of 89mm. So nice double strike there. I didn't realize the Kaga was on fire at all. So I was like, oh yay, I got a double strike. But I have a chart here that in the next video I'll actually kind of go through all of the ships, and then when I'm doing doing the Conqueror overview, well, not the overview, but the impressions of the Conqueror, I'll basically go through all the tiers again and just show the stats on the HE, and you can really see how they try to balance this out, and it makes sense on paper. It just makes a lot less sense in the game. But so like I said, this match is with the accuracy module, and I actually got pretty lucky with a number of these salvos. Not that first one though, against the Atlanta, that was broadside. Yeah, that's something that is horribly common, where I just straddle cruisers, especially cruisers, over and over and over again when I load up HE or AP, whatever the case may be. But not a bad salvo here. But generally, this ship just, it's powerful in a bow forward HE loaded type of situation, and that's it. I can't get behind that ship and think that it's anything good. The Monarch, on the other hand, was a much needed improvement for me. This match I actually have the upgraded hull, but I do not have the upgraded FCS or engine. I'm running the accuracy module in this match, and actually the next one too for this, and this ship feels just a lot better to me overall. Part of that has to do with the fact that it has 381mm guns, so now we're back to where the Queen Elizabeth left off, instead of the 356mm guns of the KGV. So what that means is that you're at least not too far off from the other ships at this tier in respect to the caliber size, which is a good thing. I mean, the Germans do just fine at tier 8 with 15-inch guns. The Tirpitz and the Bismarck, they're pretty damn solid in my experience with the 15-inch guns. The difference with this is that when using the AP for the Brits, of course, we have short fuse AP. So again, in order to maximize the damage against enemy battleships, you're either going to have to aim high or get close. So you want to have those shells land into the upper belt armor and even into the superstructure. So you'll see that here a bit with the Alabama is one of the softest battleships in the game, tier for tier. It takes a ton of damage above the belt, and I love shooting at the Alabama when I'm in, say, like a Hindenburg. Oh my god, that thing just gives up so much damage, and it really is a pinata, and I'm okay with that. I like that a lot. So split my turrets a bit here. Boom, there we go. I feel like this ship, this is my very first match with it, is feeling a hell of a lot more reliable than what has come before it when it comes to the KGV. So again, engaging multiple targets here, feeling pretty confident, and honestly, why not split the turrets and go after as much as I can, right? So would have been great if I did get a triple there, essentially. But the funny part is this ship feels especially good when brawling. You kind of make up for the fact that you get terrible dispersion like that sometimes, and there's opportunities there that present themselves with AP that you wouldn't get otherwise. And again, as I've mentioned multiple times before, the closer you get, the higher the shell penetration is on the AP, and I messed up there. I was actually looking at him from my rear turret, not my front turrets. So if I hit C, the view would have switched over to my front turrets, and I would have seen how far off my front turrets were. I totally messed that up, and I just didn't recognize that I was I was looking from the wrong turret. So that was a very shameful display. So missed opportunity there to kill him outright, but managed to get him there, and he did launch torps just before that whole sequence started. So I was pretty confident about moving in against these guys and making stuff happen. But as one of my teammates say in the chat, I go all Rambo up in this particular instance here, and just tanking damage and taking attention. And the ship is still going to suffer from an HE focus. AP, so long as you're bow forward, it's going to be fine. You are going to rapidly lose your AA mounts with this ship, but I feel a whole hell of a lot more confident using this ship than I do the KGV, or to a degree, even the Lion. I mean, the Lion's got the super heal and all that, and this ship feels like it's meant to be fighting within 10 kilometers, and I think that's more the whole shtick for these particular set of, actually probably maybe even the whole line. When it comes to AP, you want to get close. You want to be within, I would say the comfort zone for like the Germans is like 8 to 12 kilometers. I would say this is like 6 to 10 kilometers because of the short fuse AP. So you kind of have to make up for some of the fact that you're not going to be able to penetrate as much side armor before you have that shell explode. But, you know, it's still capable at long range. You whittle them down with the HE, you move in close, hopefully you have that opportunity. Move in close with the HE still firing. They've used up their heals, they've used up their, you know, they're on a damage control cooldown, and then you start unloading AP into them as they try to knock you out and finally get rid of you. And I think that's where the Monarch has, for me, found its niche. And then with the Lion, this is my first salvo with it, by the way, things are similar but just a bit different. And finally, I get an HE Citadel. You know how long that shit took? I was like, how is everybody getting dev strikes with HE? I still haven't done that yet. And one of those things, I just never had the dispersion roll the way I wanted it to, but look at that. Yay! So, let's see, the Monarch with the 406mm guns has 101 millimeters of HE shell pen. You switch up to the 419mm, that goes up to 105. Yeah, this is where things start to get really crazy though. You have a 6900 max HE shell damage on the 406, the 419 is 7200, and then 46% and 48% respectively on the fire chance. That is nuts. And I narrowly escaped these torps, but unfortunately my best friend here, Mr. Kutuzov, he stuck with me the whole time, and yeah, that was a really funny situation. This match was a total blowout anyway, so I didn't expect too much. But now the same thing applies with this ship when it comes to the HE and AP difference as it did with the Monarch. The HE is really great at softening them up when you're getting close, and then you switch over to AP, and hopefully you can circumvent some of the issues that are inherent to the short fuse AP and the massive quantities of armor that these ships can have at this tier. So dumping a HE salvo here against the enemy destroyer as I switch over to AP to commit to engaging the Missouri here. Now doing the keep the bow to him at pretty much all costs type of evasive maneuver here, which to be honest, this ship is actually, you know, pretty maneuverable, but for me it just doesn't really feel that way. I've had some close calls, and I've absolutely blown some situations I should have gotten out of. But check this out. Got my turret ready, and what the shit? He destroyed my A turret right when I was ready to fire. And so instead of doing, you know, 40,000 damage potentially, I got stuck with half that. Well, 21,000. So that was really disappointing. But I will say this much, especially on the Lion, and well, to a degree, the well, all of these ships, your turrets are going to get knocked out a lot, like disabled. And check out that HE damage there. That guy complained about that quite a bit, and I thought that was kind of funny, because apparently the AP from Battleships is a problem, but then when you actually switch over to HE, it's still a problem. So I don't know what people who complain about the how damage is inflicted upon them from Battleships when they're in the destroyer, I don't know what the hell they're actually looking for, I guess. But anyways, you know, the turrets are a severe weak point on these ships. If you get in close against them, aim for the turrets. They have the weakest armor, like the Conqueror is, for instance, because I only checked with the Conqueror, but the Conqueror has quite a bit less armor on the frontal plate there, where the barrels are for the guns, and I would assume that would be true for pretty much the rest of the line, or at least the ships that are in this video, because they all seem to have their turrets disabled quite a bit. So if you get into a close quarter fight, aim for the turrets and take out one of those big nasties, or maybe both of them. I've already seen a couple other enemy Conquerors and Lions and Monarchs running around with 1 or 2 turrets missing, and it seems like that is a severe weak point for these ships. What is also a very, very severe weak point for these ships is the durability of the AA mounts. I've mentioned this already, but man, this ship, for instance, the Lion has a massive amount of mid-range AA, and the Conqueror has the same setup, you know, the Monarch to a lesser degree, and you will have within, you know, the first few exchanges of gunfire against your ship, you're going to lose probably upwards of half of your AA mounts. And, you know, I've been able to sometimes get lucky with, you know, having some of those survive for a lot longer than I may have expected. And then other times I'm shit out of luck within the first few minutes of an engagement, and then I'm a sitting duck for carriers. And that is one thing I will mention, that if a carrier is going after a British battleship after he's taken a bunch of damage, he's gonna kick his ass. Like, that British battleship is really, really vulnerable to air attack. So for those of you who play carriers, or, you know, whether you main them or whether or not you dabble in them from time to time, if you're curious about going after an enemy Royal Navy battleship, just try to get people to focus on them for a little bit, and you know, come back to them like 2-3 minutes later or whatever, and I guarantee you're going to be able to get whatever damage you want on them. I mean, they give up a huge amount of damage to the torps. Of course, they have very, very low torp protection. I think it's like 22% or some crap like that. Torps hurt these ships quite a bit. They're very, very similar to the German battleships in that respect, and see some pretty shitty dispersion here. So again, it was part of that straddle where some of those shells are where they should be, some of them are in front or behind, and then I was actually worried I was going to miss this, but you could see just how slow the shell velocity actually is on, you know, AP or HE. It's pretty much pretty similar. And this poor guy, he actually beached in the same spot twice, like minutes apart, and yeah, but I love that explosion, especially with the debris hitting the water. That looks so cool. So really, really interesting. But, you know, the Lion has been, I think it's actually my most played, or I think it is my most played Royal Navy battleship, and it's been interesting. Sometimes inconsistent. I do think it could perform better, but I also use AP quite a bit, or I try to. But the dispersion's just all over the damn place, and unfortunately I had to. This was game over as it was, because the enemy Kagero on this the opposing team had back-to-back dev strikes against people who just apparently weren't paying any fucking attention at all. And at the very end there, when we were in B and I was shooting at the Edinburgh, or the Neptune, sorry, either way, this North Carolina, who had done nothing all match, pretty much ate a whole shitload of torps and almost gave this guy a 4th devastating strike in one match. It was ridiculous, but that actually ended up costing us the game, because he just charged right into torps, died, and next thing you know, our point swing was over, and we couldn't rely on time to save us. So that was a pretty harsh loss, but I got a ram out of it and 219,000 damage, so yeah. But taking out a couple destroyers so far. I committed to trying to help my destroyers here in B, and they're all dead now. So it's just me. If you take a look at the minimap, this is not a good position to be in, but I've got my bow forward against the curve first. The other Lion is not paying much attention to me, so I might as well try to help out my team there by continuing to set him ablaze and see if I could, you know, keep triggering his heal or his damage control party. And now I've got an opportunity here potentially against the Cur first, but I want to focus that rune because, well, he may end up mattering a little bit more in the longer run. I mean, we've got the Cur first here right in front of us. We've got a couple ships off to our flank, but we don't want to let a low health enemy escape under any circumstances. You got to try to get them while you can, since obviously this Cur first isn't going to go anywhere. So, anyways, around this time is when I just started taking a shitload more damage, and you know, I guess these guys have been shooting. Like the Cur first had fired a few salvos like at my right at the bow of my ship, and he just kept bouncing off, and some of the other shells would, you know, come up and hit my turret and knock that out. And I think this match I had either one of my front turrets disabled. I think it was 4 times. For a battleship, that's a lot. So that is something that is very much worth mentioning. You know, again and again. But this battle turned out to be just crazy. I think I ended up with 3.3 million potential damage, and that was mostly all... Actually, all of it was literally going into B, and then, you know, this push here against the Amagi as well at the end. This proved to be a little bit more of a challenge than I would like to admit. Generally because I'm very much still in the testing phase with these ships, where I do want to just see what will happen, you know, even if it does cost me a match or whatever, by a switch in shell types. I'm trying to experiment. I'm trying to get comfortable with the ship, see what it can and can't do. This applies to all the new Royal Navy battleships because I'm just inquisitive like that, you know? So, yeah, another disabled front turret. That's absolutely fantastic. But you get to see some of the issues here with the dispersion. You know, some of these shells and shots, only one of them's really my fault. It'll be... Well, that was pretty lazy on my part, but look at this one. I think that's a little bit of both the ship and my own fault, but oh well. That's how it goes. But, you know, I used up all my heals at this point. I'm on fire, and I just need to get this guy down because my repair is not going to be saving me anytime soon. So we finally get him taken out, and thankfully we don't get another fire set on us. And that is the health that we survived that match with, which is pretty damn crazy. So I was pretty happy about that. But in summary, as we take a look at the 419mm gun option on the Conqueror here, and I think you guys will like this whole sequence of events. Just cover your ears. Jesus fucking Christ, Wargaming, you gotta turn that down. That is absurdly loud. My god. Anyways, the KGV, I honestly think is an attempt from Wargaming to troll the player base, or at least me. That's how it feels like to me. That ship, I can't get that damn thing going for me. And then the Monarch, and well, with the KGV, it does have some strong aspects to it. Obviously, the HE performance is extremely good, assuming you can hit anything. And I had a lot of people be like, well, you should have just, you know, switched to AP or, you know, HE instead to make sure you did some damage. That doesn't matter at all if I'm not hitting the damn ship that I'm shooting at. It doesn't make a difference at all. And taking off the accuracy module, I wish I started the ship with that instead. I really wish I didn't even bother with it. And the thing is, what pisses me off is that if I go back to it like a month from now and use the accuracy module, it's gonna work. You know, it just, there's no rhyme or reason for it. It's dispersion, and like I feel like there's something inherently wrong with the ship, but at the same time, if that thing was any more accurate, it would just completely and utterly dominate tier 7 with the HE spam. It doesn't have quite the opportunity with AP against other battleships as it should, I'm sorry, you may expect it to, but when it's at range, at least, it's going to be weak on the AP front against battleships. It's going to be really strong at any range against cruisers, and I lucked out with this. Look at this. But the AP up close against other battleships is going to be nasty. It's going to default have pretty shitty pen, but you should be able to do some solid damage with it. The Monarch is much more powerful at close range, and generally at any given range it's going to be more powerful than the KGV because it's 381mm as opposed to 356, so by default you're already getting more shell pen as it is. And the AA is certainly a step up from the KGV, but again, very, very weak AA mounts that just love to explode on their own, apparently, and yeah, so that's kind of annoying, but I do wish I had this salvo back. Waiting, I should have just waited a little bit more. Very, very disappointed in myself on that. If I had waited till I was about this point here, no question, I would have deleted him outright, and I think that would have been super awesome to share with you guys, but at least he's given me another opportunity. And we're testing the Conqueror's armor here after all against 18.1-inch guns. So I'm trying to not turn too much and expose my underbelly and make it really, really vulnerable, but booyah, gotcha. And then when it comes to the Lion, it's pretty much the same story. It's a bit trolly for me with the dispersion, but the survivability with that super heal is insane, and you can really keep your team in a match if you're using that the right way and at the right times. It can mean it can mean the difference between a win or loss. But that'll pretty much cover my initial impressions. God, that felt good. My initial impressions of the tier 7, 8, and 9 Royal Navy battleships, and I will definitely have a ton more footage of the Conqueror coming up. But to anybody out there in Irma's path, it's going to hit where I used to live for about 10, 11 years. I've got friends down there, and I'm hoping for the best, but I wish you all the best of luck, and the next couple days are going to be hell. But take care, and thank you for watching, everybody. I'll see you back here next time.